Culture Club.
Money FM 89.3. Good afternoon. It is drive time with Eliott Danker, Timothy Go, and Chua, Tian. Time now for Culture Club. You know, one of the things I really like looking at those videos that help you to recycle clothes, make it into like a tote bag or something like that. Mm-hmm. I never get around to doing it, but
the idea is always there, right? And it just takes us that extra effort to do it. Yeah. And I think I can speak for many of us. We just don't have the time.
Well, that is what the Make-O experience is about. You know, you think you make access cutoffs, make into compartments of a bag, or old school cam tees, make into some kind of, the tote bag or something like that. And it sounds like quite fun. It is the brainchild of the founders of GINLEE Studio.
Yeah, this is very interesting because I do have a lot of unusable clothes that don't fit anymore that will make good tote bags. But yes, shoppers can also be part of this circular process if you are like us with no time to do that. And you can learn how to keep unwanted materials off the landfill as much as possible.
Yeah, it actually reminds us that recycling should be the last resort in this circular initiative. It also serves as a timely reminder when you start thinking about the Singapore Green Plan 2030.
Mm-hmm. Well, to tell us more about the importance of circular fashion and how GINLEE Studio is used, designed to conceptualize this initiative, of course, joining us in the studio, GINLEE herself, designer and co-founder of GINLEE Studio.
Good evening. How are you?
Thank you. I'm very well. Thank you very much for having me. Well, you are welcome to send your T-shirt my way.
So, since you brought that up, GINLEE, I want to... My question...
It got to be clean, though.
Of course, it's always clean. They stay in the closet for long periods of time. But in terms of recycling and reusing all these things, is it better for me to just send my jeans, my T-shirts, and whatever to people who can still wear it first before we think about repurposing it to something else?
Right, is it? I think there's just too much of it. I think this is why we decided to launch our project called Make-O initiative by GINLEE Studio. There's just too much of it. What we try to do here is to develop ways that we transform unused, unwanted. Like you say, I have, should it be better if I give it away? So, and into uniquely redesigned product. And the intention is to expand their lifespan so that they don't land up in the landfill as quick as we like, right?
Sometimes they say Singapore a bit sayang to throw away. So at least you reuse it, you kind of, I can still see this item.
In fact, when we ran our survey, we find that was the key thing why people still keep sayang.
Meaning? It's a waste.
Hot bin to throw away.
Okay, you paid like $100 for a pair of...
They might not want to use it because it might be it might have a sentimental value. That's why they're keeping it. Okay, so not only sayang, but also there's a sentimental value to it. So they want to keep it, but they don't have use for it because they're outgrown it. The style is no longer theirs. So that's the reason they have this extra textile products or ways in their...
So if it's something sentimental and you repurpose it into a piece of, bag that you can use in the grocery store, then it's still with you.
Correct. There's still value. So what we tried to do with Make-O is that we prototypes to show people what's the viable outcome.
Okay.
So they get to visualize, because when they say sayang, I don't dare, or like I sayang, like what ways, we can't want them to have a look at what the outcome would be.
You've brought some of them here.
We brought some here, but
we've got this on video, so we'll be able to look back at it on our Instagram stories.
So this is called 2T bag. Okay. So it's made out of 2 T-shirts. So that's a front, that's a back.
Oh, look at that.
Right? And that's the sleeve of the bag. Okay. So basically, we are utilizing the T-shirt. So we're asking ourselves through the design process, what do we want to keep from the previous life? So we decided the neckline is quite, recognizable. And obviously the graphic, if you go for your concert, you want to keep them, right? So this is how we start the process to kind of like ask what's the previous life that we want to retain.
So what's your favorite part of the T-shirt, for example?
And then how do I continue to build them? So this is the 2 T bag, and then we have like 1 T bag, which is a bit more straightforward. So that's one T-shirt. You can see the neckline, right?
And I think the most interesting part of this is that it's still with you. You don't have to give it away to somebody you don't like or to whatever.
So what we hope to do by prototyping, it give them that vision of what it can be. Right. So when they come to a workshop with your T-shirt, for example, you kind of like, I can see my T-shirt in that, right? So that is one of the first initiatives that we roll out under Make-O.
Yeah.
to
I like
repurpose.
that there's a story to tell as well.
It is, right? So you kind of can tell people, wow, this is my child's t-shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's a very good story to tell if you have
Yeah.
favorite stuff that you
Yeah.
can't wear anymore.
Correct. I think the intention, like I say, is to keep the lifespan as long as possible.
Yeah.
So it's reduction of waste. So we say that landfill is getting full up, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
just keep it slow. Just slow it
How
down.
long does it take to make, say, the 2 tea bag?
The 2 tea bag is about an hour and a half. So you have to kind of like send us your t-shirt to prep it. The 1 tea bag is about an hour. So that one you can do.
And I get to
Yeah,
make
you
it?
do it, not me.
But you guys prep it?
You have to do it. So I'll guide you through, or our maker will guide you through.
very nice.
So that's why it is. I'm not selling the bags. You are bringing your bags or your t-shirt to be
So
transformed
do we
into bags.
need a sewing machine or anything
There
like
will be
that?
few
to-
sewing steps that we will help you with. So
Okay.
you technically don't need to know how to sew, but if you want to sew, you're welcome to step on the machine. We'll give you some, check and see that you actually know how to sew.
I think this is great, and what you're doing for the environment and what you are teaching, not just from one generation to one generation could pass down to the next, but what do you get out of this?
You see, the thing is that why we do it, right? So maybe that's the key question. We are a fashion design company, so
Right.
we do clothing. So, okay,
Yeah.
that's fundamentally what we do. So we have the first-hand account of what textile waste we have in our industry.
Okay.
So as we look at this linear production model, that's what we do, right? We produce. So you imagine this pyramid. So we start from one side of the pyramid. So you have us designing, sourcing for fabric, and say, okay, I'm going to sew this, add that, and then you build this layer of values up to this user stage. Okay,
Sure.
we ship it, send it to the shop, retail it, and the user buy it, and then you kind of go a bit, downhill.
Yeah.
There's a loss of value.
Yeah.
So we find that this linear model is perhaps what inspires us to start looking at a circular model, which is how do we kind of kick it back up? So sometimes we have customer that comes to us and say, help me, some mishap happened, my pleats got ironed out. By the way, we are known for our hand-mold pleated item. I think we got quite a fair share of customer coming to us, asking us to rescue the dress. And then we go like, okay, if I rescue this dress, she wouldn't dump it, right? So
Yeah.
because it's damaged.
Yeah.
So we say, okay, we do it. And then we did it, and we did. And then we realized that by doing so, actually, we are keeping it off the landfill by trying to rescue it.
Yes.
So that's the first form of keeping it in the loop.
Right.
And then by redesigning a product that had been done, is not raw material, okay? It makes you think in a different way of designing. So usually we imagine the world, we have raw material, but in this case, I cannot. Your t-shirt, I look at it, I got to work with it, So I really have to adapt my designing skill to that. And that intricate kind of process really fascinates us.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we imagine the world, what if there's no raw material?
Yeah.
And designers' materials are our tools. So you kind of literally just take it off us. So this is how the project got started, why we did it, because we had that textile waste that we deal with. And, that's an aspiration to try to implement circular model into our way of production.
But circular model and what you've talked about, GINLEE, goes against the core of fashion, where you have to create something that's trendy every season and then make it maybe an item that's desirable for people to keep buying your product. So how do you make money, and how do you run a business like this?
I think there was a few words that you mentioned. I don't remember that all, but desirable, I think, is still fundamentally what we do. Whatever I do here, it got to be desirable. Okay, so first and foremost, let's clarify that. So no doubt of that, but the way we go about, we have this tagline that we say, making fashion that matters. We just kind of like it's making, right, very hands-on, very craft, and
Right.
matters because we are not really into trend-based. We are kind of saying okay, when we design an item, can it last? What's the longevity? How long can people use it for? How many times she can use it? How many wear I can get out of it? So I don't think it's contradicting in the initiative that we run. It's more like those are what we feel like is our passion project, because fundamentally what we are doing, we are slowing it down. But we have a few other initiatives in our shop. One of them is called Get Order on Demand, that we ask the customer to wait. It's a pre-order system that we basically ask them to wait 3 to 5 weeks. And we believe that it also gives them a bit of mindful consumption. So you don't just impulse buy. You got to wait for your product. So it's not immediate. Okay, so we believe that in the end of the day, development of desirable products that have very thoughtful and mindful design process helps to give it more longevity and also thorough thought through. So it's not about making it faster, cheaper. It's just making it more thoughtful and mindful of what we are producing.
With regard to the customers you have with Make O, what's the demographic like? Is there a particular age group that tends to buy into this more than others?
Good question. We launched the project. Okay, we just now launched the project. I mean, like, we can kind of like refer to our current customer, okay, and we say like, ever since we launched COTS, this is the other group under the project Make O, which is Color on the Spot. So as the acronym for Color on the Spot.
I like the color. It's very nice.
But actually it's coming from one single base bag. Okay, so what we do, we print on the spot. So when customer choose the colors that they want, we print it on the spot. Because why are we doing that? Because we believe that inaccurate projection. I say I will sell more black, but actually you love pink. And then what do I do with the black, right? I have incorrect projection.
Yes.
So by doing coloring on the spot, we help to reduce that amount of waste. Okay, so for this project, I can say that it's more our customer base. So with that, it's widely accepted. People love it and all that stuff. With the upcycling, we are really kind of like pushing the boundary here. It's relatively new and kind of like a bit complex because eventually you are telling people no raw material. Let's try to develop. And when we develop, the whole process has been pretty tough because I don't choose what comes into me. So your t-shirt and your t-shirt might be different thickness, and how do I balance that? So there was a design process that we have to go through working with unknown. So in that way, I would say like we wait to find out what's the demographic, but with Make COTS, with this one, I know you can't see. I would say like it kind of like widen out our demographic instead of like just woman customer, because we are doing women's wear. We have also male and all that because they just love the crafting element of the craft elements of this hemo pleating technique. So they come in to experience that. So I mean, in short, we will see.
I mean, I'm in my 40s. I buy into it because I love bespoke. Because only I have it, and even with the upcycling, I mean, that's what's going through my head.
Actually, that's what people say. I love the one-off mindset of like having one-off. So
I used to be like that until I realized that clothes I buy will fit for one season and I gain 2 kgs and I can't wear them anymore. So in terms of fashion sustainability and the future of fashion, I don't want to keep buying clothes because I don't fit anymore and I'm struggling to lose weight. So how do I balance that out for some? I mean, there are many people who are like me. Will buy cheap because I know that after 2 months I can't wear it anymore.
Correct, yeah.
Is there something that the fashion industry can do to address this?
I mean, like Make O itself is talking about circular, right? So one of the things that we have to think about is how do you design circularity? So for example, when I mentioned the handle being 3D printed, what's the idea of assembly, disassembly? So when I want to get this replaced, I don't have to chuck the whole thing out. I can just replace part of it. The same thing to what you just asked me just now. Maybe it forces us as designer to think otherwise. Can I expand your clothes through my production technique? So one of the vision that we have for our project Make, which is pleating in the shop. So if I make my pleats a bit bigger and smaller, does that make the size bigger and smaller? It does, right?
So if you iron out the pleats, it will be bigger.
But what I'm trying to kind of like illustrate here is the mindset change of designing differently. Designing towards that form of
Actually,
circular
now that
model.
you reminded me, I used to have a shirt that is ringed, back in
ring
stuff.
I
ironed it out and it fits again.
Perfect.
So
Perfect.
Do you have to, I mean, in this process as a designer, we are all, I mean, not we, but designers tend to be adamant on that particular style that they have. Have you had to change your mindset a lot? Are you now like a semi-sales person of the environmental advocacy kind of thing?
I still see us as a designer to the woman we dress. Okay, so we kind of like ask what she wants, what does she want, right? What's her lifestyle, what's her needs and all that. So we very much do that, right? I think it's just that because I'm in the fashion industry for, can't tell you how long because you know my age, but I think it's that feeling of like you can't keep chasing that, keep going for it. This season is this season is that. So in the end, you kind of want to build something that is a bit more sustainable. Just even for designers, we can't kind of like, let's change this now. This is not trendy anymore. So in the end of the day, it's not contradicting, but it's just like as designer, every design that we churn out takes X amount of brain cells,
it's got to be functional, but now you're adding a bit of a philosophy to it.
Correct. I think it's just kind of like giving respect to what we do. I think that's what fundamentally what we want to represent is that whatever we do, we try to be very thoughtful about it so that it doesn't feel like just let me just throw that out and let me just, So I think it's saving our sanity in a way that by slowing it down, by thinking about other way of doing things. So as much as, yes, what you're mentioning, like you want the customer to perhaps buy and then just, go to the next batch. It doesn't serve us as designer because each idea takes time to form. So it's balancing for us.
Wow.
So getting more specific then, GINLEE, what do your clients today want to wear? And do they really think about what they will do with this piece of dress?
When we design, we try to get like 3 use out of them, right? So we say like, okay, she should be able to wear to work. She should be able to wear for the weekend. And with a little bit of like dressing out, she can wear for the evening out. So this is at least on our part what we try to achieve to get as much use out of it. And for in terms of like for our clientele base, I cannot dress her for everything. I think this is market share. I can keep going on and can dress her husband and all that. I think for now we are keeping it quite in the category of day to night. So that transformation from day to night in a single piece of garment. So I think this is how we serve her, and this is eventually why she buy from us. She might not come to buy from us for her pajamas or maybe other t-shirt, basic t-shirt, etc. So, but she will come to us for that unique piece.
Well, would you be able to tell somebody like, okay, I'll make this dress for you. You can wear this at work, wear it at night, wear it over the weekend. And 3 years down the road, if you don't fit anymore, we can make it into a tote bag or a wallet or something that you can go shopping with.
I think this is part of the design process of make. Oh, can I take things back and rework it? Right. So I think we start now by taking whatever you have back before we form a library of whatever people might bring back from our own collection. But the idea is the same. If we imagine the world that we don't have raw materials, so what will we design? So if people were to bring things back, it's dematerialization. So what I do, I flatten out things, right, and just use the fabric. So when we started off, at this point, we are looking at what is the previous I want to keep. Right. So maybe I won't change it to a tote bag. Maybe I design into another dress, form of another dress. I think this would be more of an ambition for us rather than just treat it as material. But not saying that we wouldn't, because it's still a form of upcycling. I think for us, like with Make O, it have a very different handwriting from our current customer. As you can see, I mean, if you can see the item in front of you, and if you know what we have in the shop, it's quite a stretch. But we feel like it's a bit interesting to see how the customer can play with the idea. Oh, yeah, you can actually turn this into that. And that gives them that vision of like maybe 3 years. In 3 years, maybe Make O will develop into that. Like people are bringing our own collection back to us for reworking on.
Just very quickly, just some final thoughts. If I wanted to be a part of Make O, if I had a bunch of things that I want to convert, how do I get in touch?
Okay, you can reach out to us definitely. Okay. There's a few experience going on. So we have a workshop lab R&D center in National Design Center. Okay. So there you will see all this. Okay. Yeah, so come out to the 3rd floor. There you will see this all kind of weird machine going on. We have a heat press that's like a really huge machine. And I think this is where we kind of like dream up, we have in that room, you will even see like byproducts from our building. Our landlord had poster. I mean, like they're hearing us now. Like they have poster that we are working on upcycling and all that. So this is where it all starts. So you will have to, book an appointment, come in and see us, and we'll get you through.
All right. We've been speaking with GINLEE, designer and co-founder of GINLEE Studio. Thank you so much for coming by today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. Bye. Money